Welcome to Bartolomeo Meo Mugiwara fans. I've been having in mind for a while the idea of making an analysis of the Charlotte family to try to obtain some information to theorize about the life of Big Mom. The plan was making a diagram of Big Mom's children to help me to learn about her possible husbands. We've only got one known husband to take as model, Pawn, of whom we know that is the 25th husband and the father of Lola and Chiffon. We can see how they look alike, so I think we can take that as a pattern. Fathers should leave some physical feature in their children. After finishing the diagram, the numbers show quite powerful data about the life of Big Mom. During the 43 years between her age of 18 to 60, Big Mom has had 43 husbands and 43 births, which means she has given birth once a year with a different father. This is also telling us that she has been pregnant most of the time of her life. If we simply relate pregnancy to cravings, we might have found Oda's inspiration for those hunger pangs so particular to this character, which are just like huge cravings. We know that Big Mom left the Rock Pirates 40 years ago, but we don't have a clue about when she joined them, so most of her 11 first pregnancies were as part of that crew. The only example we know well, Pawn, shows us how she used him only to get pregnant and disowned him after that. That is probably what she was mostly doing with all of them, but if there were exceptions, they should probably be at the beginning, when she still had no family or settlement. In any case, there is no way to be certain about if some of these husbands could come from her crewmates. If they were, she obviously couldn't apply the same behavior that she had with Pawn, and I cannot tell how far the word husband could explain the relationship. But we can play assign Rock's Pirates members to these first children as a game and see what happens. Actually, they lived together for years, and that happened in Rock's ship. But the logic points to she having her first son with the man she lived with since childhood, Strusen, who is still with her today, and who avoided being sordid by waiting for her to be 18, 50 years ago. This would mean that Strusen would be Prospero's father, and this could have happened even before joining Rocks. However, what is clear is that the following year she saw another father for Compote, her first daughter and second birth. She is very alike to her mother. I would say the most different feature is her green hair, but I think any human could be her father. With her third husband, she gave birth 48 years ago to the tallest and strongest triplets in the family, Katakuri, Oben and Daifuku. And this fits in with the most widely accepted theory in the community about Keido could be their father. So, if we're gonna play ascending Rock's crewmates to the first children, we might well start like this. In her fourth childbirth, Big Mom began to look for offspring from other races and gave birth to quadruplets from a snake-neck father. Since there is no known snake-neck among the Rock's Pirates members, we cannot assign one of them. But it's very curious that in this panel, where many of us believe that the zombies of other members of Rocks are to the left of Captain John, just to the right, we can see a snake-neck. It's quite a coincidence that the only non-human race in Big Mom's children in Rock's period is snake-neck, and the only non-human race in the general zombies where some Rock's pirates are is a snake-neck too. We could see in Katakuri's backstory the brothers as childs on a boat, which is where they were supposed to be living by then. But there were also moments that were happening in a town, so the boat should be stopping at islands where Lin Lin could get husbands other than the crewmates. So there is a way for fathers along these years as part of Rock's Pirates could come from outside. But since we are just playing assigned children to this crew, let's move on to the next birth. 46 years ago, Big Mom gave birth to the quintuplets Counter Cadenza Cabaletta Gala and Opera. This last one looking different than the rest due to his tibble fluid. In this case, I'm not going to assign them someone from Rocks either because I found a better candidate. The first time they appear, they are all together as part of the enraged army that is leaving the castle to take Luffy down after he defeated Crocker. And an old man is with them, who is quite alike. He seems the best option as a father for these quintuplets and for Big Mom's fifth husband. The next delivery was for the triplets with Cracker and his two sisters. The first thing we notice they're sharing is their purple hair color. We know about one Rox member with violet hair, more similar to Angel's, the one at the right. But since there are other twins later with this hair color too, these three fit me more for the captain to me. Rox Dishevek. The height fits her too. Rox was quite shorter than Kado and Whitebear, but taller than Shiki and Captain John. However, I find it hard to believe that these three are these. Actually, I cannot see any of the Big Mom children as a D. But in a sort of father-child relationship, we've already seen with Ace that a D can be a dedicated underling. The following year, Tsukoto was born, who looks like a fairly normal guy and quite shorter than the average among his brothers. I would assign this one to 1C, from whom we know nothing, but his Chinese name seems to fit with Tsukoto's face and hairstyle in general. The next ones were twin sisters Brule and Broye, who, like I advance, have a hair color similar to Captain John, and they're also sharing his thinness. That's why I'm assigning him her as father. 42 years ago, these two different triplets were born, Nustorte, Dosmarch, and Bascard. I've assigned them to Shiki because that plump mane so characteristic of him that made him earning the nickname of the Golden Lion can only be seen reflected in Bascard, of all Big Mom children. The next one was Noisette, and for this one I have again found a member among Big Mom pirates whose name we don't know and who seems to fit physically. Oda explained it on a SBS that Big Mom used to kidnap husbands of other races and then abandon them. And we can assume most of them never came back, but the only example that we've got is from someone that remained there for 26 years until now. So it seems that we can expect that some other fathers stayed in Totoland, either because of attachment, like Pone, or because he was not really kidnapped. And that was the way to seal a pact with Big Mom to become a member of her pirates. We've already assigned a husband like this before with the quintuplets. This guy was part of the group dealing with the crisis during the first hang-up we saw in Big Mom. And the last birth as part of Rock's Pirates was the one of the triplets Moscato and his two sisters. We know nothing about how Silver Axe looked like. So, since Moscato is an average man, kind of handsome, and his sisters are fat, any human can be the father here. Since we're playing this game with Rock's Pirates, I'm assigning Silver Axe to them. And yes, I haven't used Whitebear in this game because I cannot see him having children with Big Mom and abandoning them when his greatest wish had always been to have a family. I know we can say the same for Weevil, but that's a different story and still unclear. We understand that Big Mom left Rock's Pirates with 24 children and a few husbands, including Streisand. We can assume those 24 children have been living in a boat, and even though the old ones could fight sometimes as part of Rock's Pirates, I don't think they did it in God Valley. So we can assume these people were the ones that settled in a territory as Big Mom pirates, and they grew from there as they became adults and more children were coming. Here is where Big Mom had husbands to use and throw away and looking to achieve her dream of a country where all races could live together in peace. Although she wouldn't add children of a new race until 5 years later. In these 4 years, her human deliveries were the small compound Lorin twins, then came Mondor, the twins Mozart and Marnier, and the disported high-fat and tablet twins. I think I found a clear father in this group. We got this peculiar face for Mondor, and I would be shocked if this guy is not his father. We don't have a name for him, but he seemed to lead that group dealing with the crisis that I mentioned before. That pregnancy of a new race that I mentioned before was with her husband 16th, who should be a strong long leg, since he was the father for the triplets Smoothie, Citron and Cinnamon. The following were St. Mark and Basan's twins, of whom we can only guess a burly human husband. The only option for Big Mom having a mink as husband is for her following daughter, Melisse. There are no details available for her, so being a hybrid is not even confirmed, but by appearance is the only one that could be. The next child is another mystery. The Quartz. He looks like a human with bad wings, just like Magellan, so they could belong to the same race. There is no option for Magellan being his father though, since he would be 14 years old by then. The following were two more human births, the twins Galette and Poire, of which that red hair stands out, and the twins without resemblances Snack and Bavarois. 29 years ago, Big Mom gave birth to mermaid twins. We can see from them how Big Mom is usually adding height to her children since these are huge. Both are two different types, so based on what we were explaining in Fishman Island, we can only deduce that their fishman father had ancestors of type hammerhead, shark, and octopus. The following were triplets with two similar brothers, Fat and Pink, that if he wasn't from another series, I would assign Majin Buu here. But the third brother, Kato, is completely different, which makes me think this could be due to a devil fruit. Maybe the jack-o'-lantern one, which could explain the pumpkin head. The 24th husband was the father of Chibos, a large human with cylindrical fixtures around his head that reminds me to Buffalo, who, even though he cannot be his father, they could be related somehow. And the 25th is the one we knew, Pound. We've already talked about him and Lola and Chiffon. Let's go to the next one. Husband 26 was the first long arm from which quadruples were delivered. That was 24 years ago, and there is a long arm in the Big Mom Pirates appearing an age that would allow him to be the father here. Diesel. This might be husband 26. It followed 4 single human childbirths in the next 4 years. Brownie, Jocon, Racing and Pana, all the way to the Snake Neck twins Mascarpone and Joscarpone. This is the first time Big Mom is repeating race, besides humans, obviously. The next was Human Juin, whose eyes are like the ones of one low-ranking member of Big Mom Pirates, Eggplant Soldier. And after that, 18 years ago, the decuplets came. Looking at their faces, that are all the same, we can imagine what the father was like. It seems Big Mom slowed down here, since she would no longer have multiple births until the last ones. After then came Nougat, who seems to come from some kind of indigenous tribe from some island, from which a man was probably adopted. But he's still human. The next one, 16 years ago, was Pudding. With her, Big Mom added a new race, the three-eyed one. This also proves that there must be individuals out there that can read the poneglyphs, since her father should come from somewhere. The next one was Flampe, and finally we're reaching the youngest ones, who we could see together in a playing room in the castle. At 14 years old is Anglais, with a rockabilly look and riding a centipede as a motorbike. And then comes Woffers, a girl who seems to be the least crazy of that room since she was the only one who disliked her siblings talking about killing each other. Although her legs were never shown to us, a concept drawing by Oda for her design shows her with very long legs. If we take her as belonging to the long leg race, we could assign a father from the Big Mom Pirates that stands out by his diplomacy, Bon, for who we don't know any other tie with Big Mom, Tamago. Then we have Widow, another snake neck, the Chat, another fishman, whose father we can deduce was kidnapped, since some pirates and Jimbe weren't with Big Mom 11 years ago. Let's recall Fishman Island was white bird territory until 2 years ago. And next to the fishman, Norman, a dwarf. I can theorize about lots of stuff, including who can be her father, because we have only seen one dwarf in Big Mom Pirates, this one, in screen, for who we have no name. But I can make a theory about how this pregnancy could have happened. I simply can't. And we're finishing with the last twins, Dolce and Draguet, having 9 years old, and the last daughter. We can see a psycho tendency in these last children, and among the members of Big Mom Pirates there is someone small and kind of psycho too, who is physically alike to the twins, Bobbin. Let's recall that this character, nicknamed the Sweeper, could burn entire islands if they cannot deliver their tribute sweets on time. The last child, with whom Big Mom quit maternity at the age of 60, is Anana, and I feel that this guy could be assigned as father because of the hair color and the wicked look, which would match with her malice. That peculiar nose, though, is something we haven't seen in any of the children. Well, this has been the result of my research to try to find Big Mom's husbands. I hope you've liked this analysis, and if so, we might meet in another video. See ya!